Hi, welcome to my persuasive essay about government shutdowns and their impacts on people, especially Americans. How do you feel when something you depend on suddenly disappears? Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that everything you rely on, from food, transportation, and even income, has been cut off without a warning. Well, that's exactly what millions of Americans experienced during the last recent government shutdown. Families who depended on food stamps were left wondering what they were going to eat and how. Travelers were stranded in airports. Workers who keep our country running showed up every day only to receive no paycheck. For many Americans, the shutdown wasn't just a political disagreement, it was a crisis. Someone you know, a friend, a neighbor, or even a family member could be directly affected the next time the government shuts down. Shutdowns don't just impact Washington, they impact everyday people first. Today, I'd like to persuade you how that government shutdowns are dangerous, harmful, and to regular Americans. First, I'll explain how shutdowns restrict essential food assistance. Second, I'll show you how shutdowns disrupt travel across the country. And finally, I'll discuss how shutdowns leave millions of workers without pay, threatening families' financial stability. My introduction. Let's begin with the most basic human need, food. Millions of Americans lose access to essential food assistance during these shutdowns. The problem is that the shutdown cuts off funding for programs like SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, leaving millions of families without food. According to CNN Politics, roughly 42 million people are at risk of losing critical food assistance in November amid to the federal government shutdown. This is because SNAP has no contingency funds during the shutdowns. When political leaders prioritize their agendas over food security, millions of vulnerable Americans suffer. This leads to food insecurity, becoming a national, worldwide emergency. Families who rely on food stamps are suddenly forced to scramble for money, skip meals, or even rely on food banks that are already overwhelmed. Shutdowns aren't just an inconvenience to people, they are in a way pushing them to hunger. But food isn't the only thing affected. Shutdowns also disrupt how Americans move across the country. Government shutdowns cause massive travel delays and cancellations. Flights were being delayed or canceled because essential workers were just being unpaid. Newsweek Flights Tracker reported that over 8,000 flights were delayed in a single day during the shutdown. Multiply that by 31 days. You'll get 248,000 disrupted flights. That's about a 53% increase. The reason for this is fairly simple. TSA agents and air traffic controllers are working without a pay. And who wants to go to their job if they're not getting paid for a single hour? As more workers started to call out due to financial strain, airports became understaffed. Families trying to visit loved ones are stranded. People lose money on rebooked flights and extra hotel stays because the airport isn't paying for your hotel stay. They're just rebooking your flight, and you have to stay somewhere while you're over there. And so this turns travel into chaos. So if losing food assistance and travel stability wasn't enough, shutdowns also attacked financial security of millions of workers. Shutdowns especially leave blue-collar workers without pay, threatening their livelihoods. Workers face income disruptions and missed paychecks. Paychecks.com reports that many blue-collar workers experience sudden unemployment during these shutdowns. This is because their jobs aren't considered essential. They are temporarily removed with no guaranteed income. Families across the country suffer financially. There has been a 64% drop in workers across companies, specifically in construction. When workers lose their jobs, families lose stability. Bills pile up, rent goes unpaid, and shutdowns create financial emergency for people who did absolutely nothing wrong. Now that you see how shutdowns not only affect food, travel, and income, let's bring it all together. In conclusion, the government shutdowns are not harmless political disagreements. They are real-life crises that hurt people. As we can see, they lose access to essential food assistance, they cause massive travel delays and cancellations, and leave blue-collar workers without pay, threatening their livelihood. They are real crises that hurt real people. Shutdowns eliminate food stamps for millions, disrupt travel nationwide, and leave hardworking Americans without pay. Just like in the introduction, imagine waking up and losing everything you depended on, not because you did anything wrong, but because the government stopped functioning. They stop giving you what you need to fix their problem. In the end, the reality is it's affecting much more millions of people during a simple shutdown. Shutdowns, in conclusion, are dangerous, harmful, and deeply unfair. They create hunger, chaos, and financial instability. So, the next time a shutdown is threatened, remember the families and those who are affected, because they will suffer first. And consider